This is how the form looks like. So basically you have to indicate the year that you want to amend. So in this case, we chose 2020. You have to put your first name, last name, your social. And if this is a joint return, you have to put your spouse's first name and middle name and last name also in the social. Now, even though I'm actually amending a joint return, I just chose for simplicity's sake to actually skip that field here. But if you were to file for real, you have to put your spouse's first name and last name there, okay? And then you have to put the your current home address, so and your phone number also, because the IRS might call you. So it's just a lot better to put your cell phone if you're more reachable via cell. And so you put your city, street, zip, state, everything, okay? And so here it says the amended return filing status. So here I'm actually I'm married, filing jointly. So let's just say that originally when I filed, I was actually I filed as a single man. Now I'm filing as as a married filing. I have a filing like a joint status here. So basically you have to if you go to the income and deduction section, this is where the magic happens. Because see, you're telling the IRS, listen, I'm trying to amend my tax return because I made a boo-boo, or I made a little mistake, whatever. So here on column A, you have the original amount reported. The column B, you have the net change that you want to really affect, and the correct amount. So you can see that on line 1, I put just the gross income, it was 100,000, and then the net change of 5,000. Now I have 105. For itemized deductions, it was 25 grand before, and the net change 2,500, and now I have 27,500. And when I'm subtracting line 2 from line 1, you can see that the math is happening on the screen here. That you have 75 for A, 25, and 75. Okay, 500. And then if you have qualified business income deduction, I didn't have any net change, so it's still the same. So my taxable income actually is basically the correct amount is $72,500. Next here, so basically in terms of tax liability, I'm actually choosing annualized estimation. So basically here, I owe 17,500 and 625, and this is the new amount here. And when you subtract, bottom line here is that on line 11, you have 20,625. And payments here, I actually you can see here on the screen here. So bottom line here is what I'm trying to explain here is that I paid 24,000. So I owe the IRS actually no, the IRS actually I owe the IRS 20,625, and I paid 24,000. And by payment, I'm talking also about the credits, okay? And so basically there is a delta in my favor. So there's a difference of $3,375. And you can see that here it says that, do you want to the IRS to refund it to you? I say yes, of course. And if you wanted to the IRS to apply it to a certain year in the future, they can do that too. But I want my money, so I want them to send me the cash. By the way, boss, welcome back to the show. It's really a pleasure to have you here. Make yourself comfortable. You are going to enjoy today's conversation. Next, I want to show you part 1 of Form 1040X. So here, this is where you actually have to put your dependents if there was any change in your dependent situation. So when I filed this return originally, actually I didn't have any dependents, and neither do I right now. So there's no change here. But in your case, if you have to actually affect certain changes, just make sure that you actually put it here. Okay, this is totally important. And so part 2, I'm not really having part of that, but if you want to donate part of your cash, part of your refund to the presidential election campaign fund, you can allocate $3 for that fund, not a problem. So you just check the appropriate box on part 2. And part 3, if you also want to, if this part 3 is applicable to your situation, then you go ahead and do whatever you have to do. Okay. Now part 3, this is the explanation of changes, because see, you are amending your initial Form 1040. So you have to give the IRS some kind of background as to why you are amending, why you're modifying your data. So here we put, trying to really explain. I mean, my explanation here is kind of summarized, is kind of succinct. But in your case, trying to use as much space as possible, provide background provide some kind of background explanation to the IRS, so they have a clear idea why you are amending your return in the first place. So here we put the previous preparer who filed a return make significant mistakes due to software errors. I mean, this is just something that I put here that we put for the for the show. But again, if you're filing something for real, you had to put the real explanation, and please do not lie. And so the next section here, you have to sign the form 1040. Okay, always sign a 1040X. You have to put your occupation, the date, and if your spouse, if this is a joint return, you have to put also your spouse's occupation. And if you paid someone to file the return for you, then you have to put the person's name, first name, last name, the PTIN, so their professional tax identification number, so the IRS has a clear idea, who they are. And you have to put the firm's name if it's a CPA firm or an EA firm, an enrolled agent firm. And so you put the firm's name and also the address. So everything is clear. Boss, I want to quickly remind you of today's topic. We are having a conversation about Form 1040X. So let me give you an overview here. So when we talk about Form 1040X, I mean, you saw it. It's not really complicated, right? But the thing is that, let me give you a little bit of background history so you have a clear idea what Form 1040X stands for. So you may be able to amend a previously filed tax return by filing a Form 1040X. You don't have to completely do a new tax return. So with Form 1040X, you only update the numbers that will change, really. And you can amend your taxes as long as your original tax return was prepared using Form 1040, 1040SR, 1040A, 1040EZ, 1040EZT, 1040NR, and 1040NR-EZ. And you must actually file a separate Form 1040X for each tax year you wish to amend. And in addition to information from the original tax return you are amending, you will need documentation that relates to your changes, such as proof of payments for a new deduction you are claiming. So simply giving the IRS some kind of explanation about the whole thing wouldn't really cut it. You have to really provide more meat, if you will, okay? And so I just want, again, we're going to put this on the screen so it's pretty clear for everybody. So the forms you can really amend, you have 1040, 1040SR, 1040A, 1040EZ, 1040EZT, 1040NR, or 1040NRZ. And so everybody can benefit from this Form 1040X. So when you use Form 1040X to claim additional deductions or credits, or let's say, or to correct an error that reduces the amount of tax you owe for that year, the Form 1040X serves as your formal claim for a refund. Additionally, many small business owners can use the form to carry back net operating losses that occur in one of the subsequent tax years. Actually, it's at 2 tax years. So the IRS notes that it takes approximately 8 to 12 weeks to process the amendments. So just be on the lookout for your refund within 2 months. Okay. So information that you really need, you need to have your social information number, your filing status, and gross income. Okay. Now there are some time limitations for filing. So the IRS limits the amount of time you have to file an amended return. So for most taxpayers, this must be done either within 3 years of the original filing date or filing deadline, or within 2 years of actually paying the tax for that year. The thing is that it's really important to really understand that there are some situations that allow you to actually file an amended tax returns. Okay, so redoing your taxes probably sounds like a chore, but there are a few instances where you should file an amended tax return. Let's say you made a mistake on your original tax return, such as an incorrect deduction, claiming the wrong filing status, or omitting certain income. Maybe you received a form after you filed. Or let's say you forgot to claim a dependent, or you improperly claimed a dependent. I mean, things happen. I mean, it's just what it is. Nobody's perfect anyway, right? So you claim an expense, deduction, or credits you were not eligible for. For example, you tried claiming the earned income credit, but you don't qualify. Or let's say you didn't claim important tax credits or deductions and want to take advantage of the tax benefits. Or let's say, or you took the standard deduction, but actually will get more benefit if you itemize your deductions. So it's one of those things where the IRS will actually correct the things for you. But the thing is, you have to actually file the return within the specific deadlines. It's one of those things where you have to understand that it's just a lot better to comply with the IRS, to make sure to show the authorities that you are a law-abiding citizen. And so the IRS limits the time you can amend the return, right? I've said this before, but basically you are able to, it's important to understand your time frames, but you need to actually act real fast. So one thing I want to say here is that before filing an amended return, ensure the IRS has already processed your return and review your entire original return, as you might spot additional tax savings such as mixed credit or deductions. So the IRS is basically giving you an opportunity to know exactly where you stand when it comes to taxes and to actually act upon that situation. One thing I also need to say before moving on here is that when we talk about Form 1040X, again, remember that it doesn't just apply to the primary Form 1040. You have a constellation of ancillary forms that actually revolve around. So, it's one of those things where you have to really look where savings can actually be implemented. So you have to look on several forms. This is so important. Boss, I want to quickly remind you of today's topic. We are having a conversation about Form 1040X. The benefits of filing an IRS amended return. I mean, when you think about Form 1040X, you have the ability to claim a tax credit. You have the ability to take a deduction you missed. You never know. You can report additional income and withholding. It's one of those things where you have to really see what situation applies to you. And to actually file an amended tax return, if you want to do it manually, of course, you have to download the Form 1040 from the IRS website. Pretty straightforward, nothing complicated. You want to gather the necessary documents because, see, the thing is that if you have to convince the IRS that your claim is actually correct, you better have a way to back it up. It's just whatever it is. You want to complete the Form 1040. So we went through it. We just went through it. Now you have a clear idea of what you have to do, and you have to basically. It's important to understand that the details of your changes are covered in 3 columns, right? I showed you the columns before. It's one of those things where you see the beginning of the year, the net change, and the final amount. And basically, you also have to submit your completed amended return. So you can send it by mail or e-file. So be sure to include a copy of a copy of proof of the federal refund, any previously unsubmitted W-2 or 1099 forms. This will help a lot. And any other substantiating forms, schedules, or documentation supporting the amended return. So it's one of those things, again, where you have to show the authorities that you are really for real. So let's say your amended return, if your amended return requires an additional tax payments, you want to mail the check along with the amended return, or if filing online, you can make a payment via the IRS website. So it's really important to be proactive here. So after you file, let's say you filed your amended tax return and you just be sitting and waiting for the IRS to contact you. No, you have the ability to actually track that Form 1040X. So there are a few different options to track that the status of that return. You can go to the IRS. There's an IRS website where it says where is my amended return. So basically, you have a clear idea what's really happening with your return, with your money, if you will. You also have you can click amended return status, and you can even call. There's a number that the IRS has all the time, and that number is 1-800. 1-866 464 2050 1-866 464 2050. It's important to understand that when you actually are tracking your amended return, you will need your social security number or other taxpayer identification number, your date of birth, and your zip code. So if you're working with, let's say, Tax Act or H&R Block or TurboTax or other players, basically they can help you track the status of your amended return. So bottom line here is that you are able to know exactly whether or not your amended return was received in the first place. If it wasn't received, then you have a clear idea what you have to do to make it happen. One thing I need to say here is that when we talk about filing Form 1040X, you have to understand that There is also a state component. Let's say you work in multiple states, so you already filed your state taxes, and you want to make sure that again your state taxes are positive, because otherwise we are going to start over, and you do not want that. One thing I want to say also is that when we talk about tracking your amended return in general, it's one of those things where if you put in the number, right, and you can't really track your for any reason, I mean, stuff can happen. Let's say for any reason you can't track your amended return, then you have to contact the IRS. It's just a lot better to contact the IRS. If you can do things remotely, do it. But at some point, if you're not getting any answer, and it's been a long time since you've just been waiting, it's just better to contact the IRS so you have a clear idea what's really happening with your dossier, with your file, before I actually start passing judgments. So yeah. Now let's talk about how long that the IRS takes to process an amended tax return. Well, it really depends upon the backlog that the IRS has, okay? And it can take up to 20 weeks instead of up to 16 weeks for the IRS to process an amended return. And an amended return usually takes longer to process than an original return, especially if filed via mail. Okay, if you actually use USPS process, then you really might be waiting for a long time. If you expect a refund from your amended return, the refund can take up to 3 months to advise. I mean, it's totally, it can take 3 months to actually arrive, and it's one of those things where you have to make sure that the process works for you. Otherwise, it's not a good thing. I mean, you are basically wasting money, you're wasting time, and so if your amended return seems to be taking a long time, it is not possible that it was rejected. No, the IRS accepts most amended returns, so that wouldn't cause a delay. In rare instances, the IRS disagrees with changes to amended returns. In this case, the IRS usually sends a denial letter or a more formal one called notice of claim disallowance. So if you receive, let's say, the IRS notice, you will have options in it, and it's one of those things where you have to use a service that really understand what really happens, okay? And so the bottom line here is that it's important to understand that making an adjustment is critical, especially if your money is on the line. So whether you choose to file an amended tax return with a pro or at a local office, let's say, or even if you file with H&R Block online, you can really understand. You can rest assured that you will get the fastest and biggest refund possible if you do qualify. In other words, those providers are getting your data right into the eyes of the IRS, so you have a clear idea what you're getting yourself into the next time you call them, and you know how to actually position yourself. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. Let's quickly do a recap here. So we talked about a recap of this situation. We had also, I mean, the overview first, we had the approach, the steps, and now the recap. Thank you so much. God bless you. I'll see you next time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.